Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Deary show.
What? What?
Sorry. Remember the last episode where there totally wasn't an episode that was recorded and something went wrong and it died prematurely, but
Oh no, that
remember
that won't haunt my dreams at all. Oh.
But there was, I remember last episode when I said I would mess up, and that eventually, well, there you go, 2 episodes. And that's all
It took us that much. Oh,
to
God.
screw it up, you subscribers. There you go. So today we were going to talk about, Liam, give us the topic.
Oh well, let's see. What were we gonna do? Were you taking that seriously?
I was which one? Relationship advice, or which is something you should never take about from 2 single men, or when it died prematurely.
Oh yeah. Okay, so let's go with that one. At risk of so that we don't end up sounding like complete dumbasses, talking about things we know nothing of. Those kinds of things that we can't handle.
We were you can't handle. I get all the babes.
Now, let's calm down there.
We are going to talk about today the one that died prematurely, unfortunately on us. It was like being so close. What it's like being so close to the U.S. and still being Canadian, and like the differences in similarities between Canada and America.
Yeah. So basically, we were covering this a bit earlier. Oh God. Oh.
And then a certain program intercepted the recording.
Yeah. Just kind of the only way we get this entire thing up is we need to rely.
Programs.
We need to rely. Yes, we need to use Movie Maker, and sometimes Movie Maker interrupts your recordings.
Yeah.
It's loud dinging noises, and it's cutting off of the audio and just generally stopping it from recording, making us lose precious minutes of recordings.
Our recording time. So we were going to talk about that, and I think we're going to open it with something else. Actually, no, I'm going to start with this. I've been to Vermont. I've been to Michigan, of course, because we live very close to it. I've been to Ohio. I've been to Florida. I've been to Tennessee. I've been everywhere in the States. I've actually got my top hat in Tennessee. And for some reason, it's interesting, but we have very few different terrain types, but you have, like, so many different ones. Like, you have swamps, and then you have icy areas, and then you have tropical areas. Then you have coniferous and deciduous forest. If I'm losing you, I'm sorry. I like my geography.
I was hoping that was going to be carnivorous forest, but it was coniferous, and it's
just a bunch of what are they? The plants that are carnivorous.
Oh yeah, just a large amount of corpse flowers everywhere. It smells like an absolute shithole. You just chuck some durian in there, and it'll be a fucking dump.
Oh, that would be the best place. I would settle there. It's interesting though, because and then Canada we have very few. Like, we live in the only area of Carolinian forest that, like, in Canada. Pretty much everywhere in northern U.S.
Yeah, it's a dull ass country. Like, it's got some beautiful landscapes, but
a majority of it is just rocky ground.
Yeah, it's not like the Irish fucking rocks where you step in between them and you break your ankle. But
yeah,
that does not happen to me personally. I've just heard stories.
And it's neat because I'm guessing since I've said that, I want to go back to what we had before the recording may have died prematurely. That about how we don't have strong Canadian accents because we live in an area that's very tightly connected to America, being so close to the border and sharing the industry with them. And even pre 9/11, this area, like, people would come here from America every day just to go drinking and just to like people had cottages here that they would settle down in, and then we kind of have a stronger. We sound more American because of the fact that there a lot of Americans settled down here.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. I wouldn't specifically call southern Ontario accents. I wouldn't specifically call them American-like. I would say that they developed much the same as the American accents around these parts, around the Michigan area, because these are groups of people that are living closely together. But both groups basically sounded British to begin with, so mutually developed accent.
And it's funny because like there's areas that have in America that seem to have the Canadian accent that are like other places in Canada that aren't here.
Yeah, we were talking about a little bit before this recording about some areas like where the stereotypes for the accents are very similar to Canadian accents, where it's like a boot and things like that. And it's not even like the stereotypes. Sometimes the voice that these people are like mimicking these American accents with sounds a lot like how you'd mimic a Canadian accent. Giving some examples, I don't even know, like I don't know, like where's the thing where people in Wisconsin have goofy ass accents supposedly?
I can't think. I do know it's a large population of Minnesota sounds like that.
Yeah, Minnesota is more is more like the Canadian stereotype, whereas Wisconsin is just kind of like it's just kind of like, why do people say they sound like? Do they sound like that? I don't even know.
I believe they do.
I know that like out west and out east. I mean, you can argue either one. Canadians have some very varied accents. Very varied. That was great. Yeah, there's tons of accents in Canada, but even more in the United States.
And it's funny as a Canadian because your accent's different from down south. So when you're going down south and it's like, wow, you people have really weird accents. I like this place.
Well, what I think is odd is well, yeah, it's kind of funny to get to be thought of as the one with the weird accent. That's kind of funny, but like going down south in the United States, what you find is people have these different accents, and for some reason they know that you are Canadian. They do not think that you are from like the northern states. They don't think you're from New York or that you're from like Michigan. They know that you are Canadian, and a lot of times what I hear is it's the way you it's the way you make the O sound, and I'm like, here we go, we're gonna learn about a boot again. And I don't hear it. I personally don't.
Our drama teacher constantly tells us about how that Canadian accent sounds so bad. And when you hear the stronger Canadian accents, I'm turning into Kermit the Frog. Sorry about that. I slip accents for some reason. Sometimes I'll just start going into an accent, and it's the weirdest thing.
I will argue with our drama teacher till like the very end, basically with anything about like the Canadian accent being ugly. There is no Canadian accent, first off, just like there's no American accent. You can't say that ugly Canadian, that ugly American accent, because it just simply doesn't exist. What they're talking about is like the television accent.
Yeah. That
everyone speaks. They're not like the Toronto version of English, generally, when people refer to Canadian English. Or when they're referring to American English, they're talking about newscaster English, which barely any Americans actually use.
Yeah. Oh, I want, like, future subscribers, if basically because we're recording the same day as the first podcast,
you're ruining the immersion.
Skyrim. This mod is lore friendly. Yes, yes, it is.
No.
Distract you.
Gosh. No, this is Canada U.S. Relations.
Anyways, that tell us how we sound when we say a boot, because that's us faking a Canadian accent as a Canadian.
A boot. Yes.
A boot, eh?
A boot, eh? A boot, boot, eh?
Yeah.
How about that cod? Okay. For everyone listening, totally watching. You're looking at the one still picture we have set up,
which is going to be
I don't know. Maybe
this far ahead.
Yeah, we haven't thought this far ahead. It might be what I'm about to reference. Anyways, look up this this movie. I think it's called Johnny Belinda. Yeah, that was it. Okay, there is this. It's set in like Nova Scotia, and this guy, he has this he has like this obviously fake, but he has like this thick accent going on, and he threatens this guy. He says, "I'll gut you like a cod," but with the accent, it sounds like, "I'll gut you like a cut. I'll gut you like a cut, Brendan. I will." And that's what it sounds like. And when you live in Ontario, especially like Southwest Ontario, Southeast Ontario, any of those places that are close to the border, you long to have an accent like that. You want to have an over-the-top accent because you sound like someone from the North U.S. Because like someone from the U.S., they seem to have this instinctive ability to tell that your accent is Canadian. But if you go to like another country, like if you flew to Europe or something like that, they'd probably be like, "Oh, you're American," and then you'd just be like, being a Canadian, what you do is you simultaneously put your head down, you face palm, you let out a long sigh, you turn around, show them the giant red and white backpack that you're wearing, and you just go, you see?
The thing with that, though, is it's not quite valid, because I do know some Americans, when they're traveling abroad, they do carry, like, maple leaves on them and flags just so that they don't get hated by absolutely everyone.
Yeah, I don't know, like, the veracity of that, like, because a lot of Americans are, like, are generally, favorable towards their own country, but, regardless, if you weren't going with the maple leaf and you were from our area of Canada, people would undoubtedly think you're American. Heck, even for, like, maybe not undoubtedly, but I don't think anyone's going to be like, "Wait a minute, I noticed that. That's one of them Ontarian accents." And I don't know why that person in Europe is sounding like an old coot from, like, Appalachia or something.
Oh, man. What was that accent? Oh, man, you're so Canadian.
Why would... well, when they start, Japa Rush Jamaica, I believe that's what country that was from, then you're allowed to do that. Jeez, okay.
Hold on. I gotta retain my composure.
Retain your composure.
Yeah, you're not helping.
Go get the lucky foot.
Where? Do I have to sign off Simon here?
Oh god, no, I just made another in-joke.
Isn't that an in-joke towards, can we just claim it? It's a Binding of Isaac joke?
Yeah, I guess so.
That was a Binding of Isaac joke. Ignored whatever Liam just said.
No, anyways, not important. So anyway, back to the relationship between Canada and the United States.
It's interesting because our economy is, like, if anything happens to, like, there's a phrase, Liam, relating to our economies, when America sneezes, Canada catches the cold.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, where it basically means, when America has an issue, like their economy drops.
When America stumbles, Canada falls down the stairs head first.
Yeah, basically. Because our economy is so entirely based on your economy. And so, especially in this area where we build cars, and because in Detroit, which is right across the border, builds cars too. And we interswap our parts, and we deal with that. Actually, I believe we both have Ford, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, Chrysler's very still has a presence in Windsor.
It does. And then you think about it, and you think Windsor, as Liam was saying in the Dead episode, it's slummy, and it's kind of more recent of a thing, but it also probably has something to do with the fact that Detroit went down so hard. Windsor probably went down pretty hard too.
Oh yeah, we have just reached Dead episode length. We are past the length of the Dead episode. Okay, so yeah, about that, like, Windsor being slummy, basically, if you've seen Stephen Colbert before, hilarious comedian, props to him for keeping Colbert Report going for so long. Great show, terrific comedian. Hope to see what he does when he's... Now I'm dating this episode by mentioning Stephen Colbert and, like, wishing him luck on his next show. But anyways, back onto topic. He basically said Windsor is the rectal area of Canada, or yeah, it's just a shithole, basically, is what he's saying. And he was joking, but he's not entirely wrong. There's bad parts of Windsor. There's good parts of Windsor. My grandmother used to live out in the suburbs. Well, my other grandmother, not the other one that I've already previously mentioned, I believe. Basically, Windsor suburbs, nice, spacious, just cheery places. But then I also worked in Windsor for a little bit, and when you work there, you get to hear on one side of your building people just normal work talk. The other side of the building, people are just getting a fist fight, just two guys yelling, "Come at me, bro!" Literally over and over, and they don't get anywhere. But still, it's just
they're too white. They're too much of white ass cracker bitches.
Yeah, generally it is, as Brendan said, the white cracker bitches that are causing these problems. If all those damn white crackers could just get out of our neighborhood.
I like how redundant white cracker is, because white cracker means white. It's the slang for white.
Well, it could be a whole grain cracker.
Oh, well, that's pretty much Quebec. Actually, no, that's Toronto.
Wait a minute, Toronto. What the fuck's Quebec?
It's because we're all U.S-Canada. We're the normal crackers. We're the Reds. Then there's Quebec, who's like, we want to be our own country. They're the Godfather, by the way.
What the hell is this? Like speaking like an asthmatic man in attempting an Italian accent. And then it all seems to degenerate into some sort of attempt at a Slavic accent with you. We want to be own country. We must eat cold Russian, French baguette. Except we are Quebecois, so we do not like the French anyways.
I think I should point this out. I can't do accents. I'm a drama student, I'll admit it, but I can't do an accent. Never ask me to do an Axeman. If you do, you'll be disappointed.
Axeman.
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 Oh, well.
Why?
No,
We've gotten to level 1 Al chest breach. Level 1 Al chest breach. No.
No. We're on a tangent. That was an Al chest breach reference, if you're wondering. But Quebec would be the whole grain cracker because they want to be different from all of us. They don't want to be part of Canada. And I'm like, your economy's going to fail if you separate. All you have is maple syrup.
That's the fun part of Quebec. Quebec is kind of like
they're the crazy people.
Well, arguing with them is a bit like arguing the arguments between some of the southern and the northern states. To bring it back to our base topic, South and the North are irreconcilable sometimes. There was a civil war fought over it, but it's just there's quite a bit of difference of culture a lot of times. And with Quebec and Canada, that's the same. Except Quebec, the worst part is you can be in an argument with Quebec, but in the end, they speak two languages and you speak one, so who ends up looking more intelligent?
Wait, whoa. We have Nova Scotia on the English side. Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and...
Yep.
They speak French too, actually.
Some islands off the coast of Newfoundland, yeah.
They all speak, they don't want to separate, and they're very, very,
New Brunswick, amazing. They have their own different dialect of the French language, and that's where the linguistics come in. Yeah. Anyways, but not to say the U.S. doesn't have its own languages. It has its own version of French as well.
It has its own version of English to some extent.
Oh, many versions of English, and that's an interesting thing.
Can I just ask you, what's your problem with the metric system, America? You screw everything up in this area of Canada because we're like, is that metric? Is that Celsius?
Yeah.
Or are you measuring in Fahrenheit?
Yeah, that's always a good question because I feel like that's kind of holding us back. We want to start measuring height in centimeters. Centimeters would be the most logical. We want to start measuring things in meters generally, but the parents think that it's impractical, and then the kids start to think it's impractical, and then for some reason we're learning the more practical imperial system, even though it's the last thing on Earth. It's the last of its kind on Earth, so therefore not so practical.
And the thing with the imperial system, it doesn't make as much sense as the metric system, in my personal opinion, because it's what's the word for a system that runs on tens? Is it deca system?
Yeah, our system is based off of tens.
Yeah, our system is based off of multiples of tens.
Whereas U.S., what's that, 12 inches to a foot?
Although if we're
12 inches to a foot. Wow.
No, 12 inches to a foot. Okay, for a second.
And a foot is 30 centimeters.
I think what we should do is we should, just for convenience sake, if you're not going to change, at least we should start using like Kelvin for temperature because
Mhm.
it's so universal and it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, yeah, that would work. Kelvin's a good way of measuring things.
For those of you who don't know science too well, Kelvin's a scientific thing where zero is absolute cold, where
Hmm.
nothing moves, and basically everything freezes immediately, which can't happen theoretically. Um, and
Yeah,
basically with the Celsius system, you take 237 and you add whatever temperature it is in Celsius onto it, and that's what your Kelvin is.
yeah. Okay, so that was one little diatribe or whatever there. Just a little educational thing. But that should be an example of how the U.S. affects Canada so much. It's been decades since we technically switched to centigrade and to the like the
Uh,
to our system, whereas the imperial system has still been affecting people in this region for a long time.
is it
Uh,
is it only Canada, and America that uses the 12-hour clock now?
yeah, Mexico might as well, but yeah, only North American countries, I think, there might be a few exceptions, are using 12-hour clock. Almost everyone else, especially like all of Europe, and I believe Asia as well, 24-hour clock. Because when you think about it,
It makes more sense.
why do we have a 12-hour clock? Well, generally it's because I don't even know because it's arbitrary. I mean, 12 o'clock doesn't look that much different from 1 o'clock, so just weird. So 24-hour clock generally makes more sense.
The other thing that America is strongly affected in this region is like transportation and shipping. Like it's your economy so like we are the Rose City, which is in reference to the fact that we build cars, and Detroit's the Motor City.
I guess we should stop saying your because that implies that people
Everyone's
listening
American, I know.
American.
It's just because I think that's just something I picked up from living down in this area because you just kind of start referring to anyone that's not Canada as America, which you eventually start referring to as your.
Well, Mr. Takezawa, if you don't like this country, you can go back to the United States. Mr. Takezawa just takes his freaking flight, leaves.
Now, before you say anything about me not being able to uh, define what culture is what, that's not true. I'm actually very good at that. I can tell the difference between Chinese and Japanese and all
Fucking
kinds
Mr.
of countries like that.
Takezawa.
Yeah, that would be.
That man, he should just go all the way back to New York.
Ugh, Takezawa.
Yeah, so anyways, uh,
Um,
yeah, so basically that's one thing like you can tell that the US basically affects this area quite a bit. More specifically or no, actually not specifically, more generally with Canada overall. I mean, if you look at our cuisine and things like that, we base it off the US. We drink a lot of coffee, though that's to be said for all of Europe as well.
most of the world does after World War II was introduced, right?
Yeah, we're not like Asia or Britain or Ireland where they drink a lot of tea more
Although
specifically. Though of course there are I'm not saying no one drinks coffee
both
there.
of us here are exceptions to that, where I drink a lot of coffee. I actually drink black coffee if you want to buy me a coffee. Um, I drink black coffee. But I also drink a lot of tea because I grew up with tea too.
Oh yeah, tea is really good. But yeah, like I was saying, as for cuisine, we generally eat like Americans.
Although I think the further out, like there's towns in Canada, like Ferguson. That's in Ontario. It's a small town. It's all Scottish.
Not to be confused with Ferguson, Missouri.
No, Ferguson, Ontario. It's all Scottish. It's a small community, and we went to a place called Ferguson Burger. It was basically American burgers with a whole lot of Irish going on.
Oh,
As in, you could get kippers, which is dried fish, dried
hmm
salted fish, on a burger,
yeah.
and poutine. Poutine is the okay. If you're in Canada, poutine, buy it, try it, delicious.
And I know if there are people from Quebec listening to this, they're saying to themselves, "That's a Quebecois invention. You better damn well state that." And we are stating that right now. It was invented in Quebec.
It was
It
we thank
is
you.
it is Quebec's great claim to fame. And while we're at it, we should probably be mentioning some Canadian cuisine in general. We are well known for poutine and the Nanaimo bar.
We
If you're
also
like,
Ontario's the home of the. Well, actually, down here, if you're in Leamington, get tomatoes. That's where we have a large greenhouse industry. But we also are where the strawberry rhubarb pie originated in, if I'm not wrong about that.
I'm not sure about that one, but
I think
that's
so.
quite believable. So yeah, that might also be a good specialty. You'll be interested. Less importantly, I guess, and maybe this could probably be disputed. I mean, I got this info from Wikipedia, but according to the great source that is Wikipedia, Canada invented the butter tart. Now,
Ooh.
that's an interesting concept. So the butter tart, and the most Canadian of foods is probably Kraft Dinner. And what you're saying to yourself is Kraft Dinner. Kraft is not a Canadian company. Kraft Dinner is not a Canadian invention. But when someone sees macaroni and cheese in Canada, they will call it Kraft Dinner. It is just as normal as calling a bandage a Band-Aid, because that is what that's the power the brand has. It's one of the most Canadian meals around is Kraft Dinner.
I was a while back. I read a page that was basically on. It was on things that it was written by American. Like you probably know what a bathroom reader is. It was one of those, and they had a sheet of words Canadians would say, and I'm like, I don't say a lot of these. Like a lot of these are things I just don't say as the base word. I usually say what it actually is.
Oh yeah, like for some reason I saw somewhere that there was a mistake where people assumed that Canadians used the term euchred a lot to express someone being tired. We never say euchred. Like, that's an Australian thing or something.
Yeah, I don't even. I've never heard that word before. At least
we'd say someone's beat.
Yes, or someone's exhausted, or someone's tired.
Yeah, I'd say beats supposedly in Britain they have like shattered or something like that is a good way of saying it. But yeah, we would never say euchred. So as for Canadian slang, and we should really talk about A. As you've noticed throughout the entirety of our videos so far, we have never once ended a sentence with A. Until that last one.
A is just the pronunciation. It's basically how sometimes we pronounce hey, but because of we do have a slight accent towards it, where it starts to sound like A.
Yes, A is used at the end of a sentence for emphasis, or to grab someone's attention. Now, but similarly, to grab someone's attention, generally at the beginning of a sentence, you would say, their name or something like that to gain their attention. But additionally, A can also be used at the end of a sentence. Like, generally at the beginning of the sentence is used to grab attention. At the end of a sentence, it's used to, see if someone approves of what you're saying or agrees with it. As for why it's associated with Canada, I have no clue, because it's like a colloquialism that's used in quite a few languages, really.
Another thing that's funny about that, Canadians find a lot of the things Americans think about them to be funny, because we just like hearing what people think we are. There was this one time where my grandparents were traveling, and they got asked by a girl if they lived in igloos, and that's like the funniest thing you can hear, because obviously, we're at the same level as Detroit at a certain point. We're actually more southwest than Detroit. We are the most southwestern town in Canada, but basically we have the same weather as Detroit. So if Detroit lives in igloos, then yes, we can live in an igloo too.
My father was asked once by American tourists where the nearest ski slope was, and I hope to God they were joking. I really do.
Okay, I think we need to explain that. Where we live, basically, it's not mountains. We live on a flat terrain. There's almost no dips in it. It's just flat.
Yeah, we live basically in the Golden Horseshoe, an agricultural term. This is this is the area where basically the majority of Canadians, or majority of at least Ontarians, reside.
There's these. Then sometimes I start talking to Americans about geography, and I'm like, the St. Lawrence River, and they're like, where? I'm like, you don't know where that is? And I pull up a map, and I'm like, it's like visible from space. It's right here.
But not any of the Americans that are listening to this, because we know you are smart people. You are smart and
Otherwise,
educated.
you would have been confused by some of the things we've already said.
You are not the kind of people who would just absent-mindedly go up. So I think that's what it is. I think it's like you have the they aren't. It isn't that they're Americans. It's just that they're kind of they're kind of dumb or arrogant people, I guess. They're just like coming up to you and like expecting that their knowledge is correct. It's not that they're American. Like, we have tons of dumbasses in Canada. Like, don't worry about that.
Yeah. Another thing I liked was we know where your capital is, which is Washington, D.C., which is District of Columbia.
And in other words, the place that bears my name, as I like to call it. Yes.
Yes, he's related.
They should have rolled out the carpet when I showed up, but it was a very nice city. Well, district. There is the city, but then there's the larger district anyways.
So, like, we know that. We know a lot of your state. And then when you ask, like, what was it? They asked a bunch of university students where Canada was, and most of them couldn't even guess. Actually, none of them could.
Oh, because it was to find Canada on a map of Canada. And that tripped people up, I believe.
No, it was an actual map of an actual map of the world.
Mm.
And there was only one person that got it, and he was Canadian.
Now that would be interesting. That would show like a large but then partly it might just be because people I don't know, but still like there is I've heard stories of people trying to find Canada on a map of Canada, which that at least you could find some difficulty. Because then people who don't know what the provinces are, I really can't see an American not knowing what the province of Ontario is. Like, it's where Toronto is, so you'd think they'd know that much.
Yeah, here's your little game for you. I'm going to give you, subscribers. In the comments, put where you think without using Google, put what you think the capital of Canada is. Mm-hmm. And I'll point out that Washington D.C. is your capital city.
Located in, yes, the District of Columbia, which is not a state.
I can name quite a few of your states, which
it's funny because Washington State has nothing to do with Washington, D.C. Nope. Was something I found quite interesting.
And it's interesting how influenced we are by Americans, too, because we learn a whole lot of things about the Americans. We know a whole lot about you.
We know a lot of the founding fathers. Now, fathers of Confederation, that's a good question that you'd ask Americans, but then, same thing, like that's, I guess when you're the U.S., you are the most powerful country in the world, rather. What is it to know a weaker country? What is it to know about its history and things like that? It really isn't much to you, because it's better for people who are from a country that's in a weaker position to know about your history, because you're the dominant country. It's like what went down back when what was like a massive power. I don't know if I think
the Quebec Ice Storm.
Oh no, I'm thinking more of like a massive military. It's basically unprecedented in modern history that there are or in any history that there are so many countries that need to know about one other country.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
And then it's funny that sometimes when you ask, I'm not going to start this. Do not argue in the comments about this, subscribers. Don't argue about the War of 1812. I'm just saying, we accomplished our goal in the end. You didn't really. You didn't get more land. We just got ours.
Most people listening, people listening to this, if you're not American, we're not referring to you. We're referring specifically to you, American people. You lost. Just give it up.
Just accept it, exactly. Because you our goal was to keep the land we had, and yours was to try to take over Canada, and you obviously didn't manage that.
And then the Fenians failed too. Take that, Ireland. Again, I'm kind of dead if some of my relatives figure out or find out about this.
No, you can just explain that you're making jokes.
Yeah, so I could explain, the Fenians. They sucked. Not like the original Fenians. They were hardcore. They were running around with Finn McCool doing all that. Okay, I'm losing everyone.
Yeah, don't stop, Liam. You're gonna lose them. They don't know they're Ireland.
Okay. Anyways.
And it's interesting because we know a lot about America. It's interesting because where were we? What were we talking about again?
Oh well, basically just how We know the U.S. doesn't know us, and just like think of it, I'm pretty sure the U.S. is quite members of the U.S. Well, you have to be aware of Ontario, right? Because most people in the U.S. know what Quebec is.
You have to know it. Also British Columbia at least.
Yeah, you need to know BC because it's like the place people go to a lot of the times, besides Ontario, because BC's got such an awesome climate. Also, it's got all those, people doing the marijuana, but that's a stereotype.
It's kind of true. It's kind of not. It's not legal. Not legal.
No, I see that a lot. Like, why do people think that it's legal?
Why do people think it's legal here? No, you do need the license for it and everything.
Yeah, you need a medical marijuana license. There is no way to get just straight up marijuana and buy it at a store. That doesn't happen.
Where is it? They've legalized that somewhere in America.
Colorado.
Colorado, right.
A few other states as well, I think.
Say Colorado again.
Colorado.
You see that? There's slight linguistic differences there.
Colorado.
Colorado. It all depends where you grew up. We grew up. You've been in Keysville for your whole life. Yeah.
Yes, I am a rural person, but I am not a farm boy.
But I'm from oh man. SK, I think I moved here.
SK stands for senior kindergarten.
Yes, I should have thought about that.
In case, the U.S. has U.S. or any other country has a different system.
It?
Well, yeah, but if U.S. or any other people listening from any other country have a different system, it stands for senior kindergarten. It is after junior kindergarten. It's a very odd distinction because it's just 2 years of kindergarten, but,
Yeah,
Kindergarten itself sounds German to me, but,
That's something I'll have to look up later. And it's interesting because there's a law in Canada that basically we can't have. Is it like 20% of our programming has to be Canadian, or is it more?
Oh, it's something like that, but
like 20% of our programming has to be Canadian. The rest can be American, but 20% has to be American. Canadian.
Yeah, because you go on Canadian television stations and it's all American programming for the most part. Those are the popular ones, at least.
Yeah, and
watch Corner Gas. Do it. Do it.
Subscribers.
Do it.
Do it. Subscribers. Corner Gas is basically one of the it's like the biggest sitcom, I believe it is.
It is our largest cultural export. It is what it is to be Canadian, despite the fact that it takes place in not Ontario, and therefore doesn't express how the majority of Canadians live.
Is
but
it Alberta? It's one of the.
Manitoba. It's one of the.
Why? The one I can't pronounce.
Yeah, we need to remember this.
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it takes place in Dog River.
Dog River, Saskatchewan, which is go on their site. You can research it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's. I was just about to do it right now. I was like, oh. But,
is Fraser American?
Fraser's got to be American.
I think, it's Seattle. It's American.
The Fraser River, not necessarily. But...
No, Fraser takes place in Seattle, right?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, if you want to see some Canadian programming, check out Corner Gas, The Old Red Green Show.
Oh, can I just say this? There's this thing, Red Green Show, one of my all-time favorite shows, because it reminds everyone in my family of my papa. He is that character, just not fat. He is that character though. He's the one who puts together stupid things, and it's a great show.
Yeah. Thinking of some other ones though. We had Murdoch Mysteries is still going on. That's supposedly a good show. I myself haven't watched it. We had this one show called History Bites, which used to be pretty good about Canadian history, and history in general, really. It was
we have
really
a weird
good show.
History. Canada only became its own country in the 30s. Like, it became independent in the 30s.
Became its own country in 1867, but its independence was really only recognized kind of after the King Byng affair, all that.
Because basically we were asking the British for money because we were still dependent on them. We weren't independent.
We're Dominion, yeah.
We were a Dominion, which is a fancy term for part of us, but we're letting you call yourself a country.
So because we don't want to pay everything for you.
And we asked them for money in the Great Depression, and Britain was in the same problem as everywhere. Especially Germany, by the way.
Yeah.
Germany had bad system, but I'm not going to explain that. And we asked them for money, and they're like, you're your own country now. You're independent. Don't ask us for anything.
Yeah.
So we lost support of them. But anyways, back to America.
Oh, but we're still technically a dominion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are still technically a dominion. That's our name. That's why we had Dominion Day as our holiday on July the 1st to celebrate Canada. But it has now since been called Canada Day because our government hates things that are not generic, it seems. But that wasn't like our present government. That's been our government a long time running. That has kept it as Canada Day. Regardless, yeah, check out some of those TV shows I mentioned. Those are some really nice.
Is Open Black Canadian?
Partly Canadian, I think.
Yeah, I think it's partly Canadian, because I remember, I could be wrong about that. The other thing is, with Netflix here, a percentage of the people who had to work on the show had to be Canadian for it to be on Canadian Netflix, which is why most Canadians try to get American Netflix.
Because Canadian Netflix isn't very good.
But that doesn't say our shows aren't good.
Yeah,
Corner Gas, like Canadian humor, stereotypical Canadian humor, can be very, very dry.
Oh, yeah, Canadian humor runs anything from dry to just insane, because our idea of sitcom humor is basically anything from just some people make half of it is witty remarks, like
yes.
At least half of it is witty remarks, and then like the other part of it is the humor is derived from someone driving by your car, throwing a giant rock through the windshield, and then just driving off, and that is part of the humor. As well.
It's Canadian has a weird culture that's been so affected by American.
Oh, it's like a weird mix, mostly American but partly British. But anyways, the Canadian content rule, that does not necessarily mean, despite that there's that 20% rule, that does not mean that like our good Canadian programs get a lot of support, nor does it stop bad shows from getting on air. I am still disappointed with the lack of Canadian content, because we basically get one or two good shows every year or so that are out that are worth watching. And then, the rest is just watching CBC, Power and Politics.
Oh, wait.
Canadian politics is very fun, by the way.
I'm trying to think. Is Adventure Time Cartoon Network or Teletoon?
That's Cartoon Network.
Okay, we don't get... Anything that's, like, when you're watching Cartoon Network, and if you see something that's, Teletoon original, that's Canadian original.
Yeah, that would be, but anything with a little Canadian flag in the corner, you'll know, because American shows don't have a little waving American flag in the corner, because if it's from the United States, that's your first guess. No matter what country you're in, probably, your first guess is going to be, if a show is in English, and it's in plain English, then it's going to be from the United States.
Yeah, it's, what time is it? What are we at?
Oh, for the video, we're at 43.
43 minutes?
Yep.
Not bad.
Yeah, so that's something you can tell about U.S.-Canadian reciprocity, is that, like, our cultural intake has always been mostly from the U.S. Now, just recently, other countries have become more like Canada. Canada was taking all of our pop culture from the U.S. before it was cool.
And that's actually pretty nice that we do, like, it's funny. You go out to see, like, Northern Line was talking about this, where basically, Canadian movies are American movies. We don't get a whole lot of Canadian movies. Those come out once in a while.
No, and they're like...
To be popular.
Generally, they're art films, and they are from Quebec, usually, because the people in Quebec have, like, taken the awesome French film tradition and kind of made it their own, to an extent.
If you want to watch thinking about that, if you want to watch a Canadian prank show, or like a humor show, Just for Laughs, gags, or Just for Laughs.
Oh, right, I should have been promoting Just for Laughs.
That's a show from Quebec. It's actually one of the biggest comedy fest. It is the biggest comedy festival in the world.
Yeah, and it's not to be missed. It's terrific. Most of the humor actually is in English from from performers all around the world. You got Irish people, Scottish people. Obviously, you've got francophones.
You got your Americans.
Oh, like, tons of Americans. Jon Stewart does some. He at least used to do some hilarious stuff.
I was watching one American comedian on it talking about how we're not funny people. Just face it, we don't have a whole lot of funny people.
Oh.
Meanwhile, look at America, we have all the funny people, and it was very true.
Yeah, that's the funny thing though. Canada is well known for having tons of people who get into, and this is something that a bit enrages me to an extent, is the government does not, what do I say, the government, but generally our governments, whoever happens to be in power, does not, I don't know, pay enough to keep Canadian talent in Canada, because what happens is Canadians get scouted by American companies, and like American producers, go to the U.S., make shows and write things, and they go to the U.S. and become famous, and they never come back here, and that's sad because it makes Canada, look like a duller country.
That's not all true though all the time. Because,
no, certainly not. Yeah.
I when I want to become a director, though I'm first going to go into like working with the grip, which is lights and everything. And I was looking at things about this, and apparently, like, yes, they will provide money for you if you want to make a film and you have everything set up. They will provide the money.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing. I think maybe just the allure of American money is
it's much greater than our cheap Canadian money.
Yeah, so that's the issue. We end up with not a lot of compelling Canadian stuff to a degree because people are moving to the U.S. And I'd say Canada has some of the most inventive and witty people out there. It's just an issue of whether they're going over to the U.S. to get work and things like that. And it's true, most of the time the U.S. is voted as like the funniest country in terms of just having funny people, and like as in comedians. And I think that's probably true. I mean, the U.S. makes most of the world's pop culture at this point.
But we do have
nice try, Japan. Maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time, Japan. I'm sorry. You do have great food, Japan. Let me say that.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I love your candy. I love your. It's. Oh.
Yeah, when you Canadian American cuisine can't compare. And again, going back to Northern Lion, as he once greatly stated in his great wisdom, American food is the best in the world if you don't care about the health consequences. You want something that tastes great, but is going to probably kill you. The U.S. is the place to go, and I will defend that.
It probably is.
But we invented poutine. I mean, Quebec invented poutine.
There is great things that come out of Canada and the line of food, though. There's a lot of great restaurants. I've been to restaurants in Detroit, and oh, those are great. I love Detroit. I have to point this out. You're thinking, oh, Detroit's such a ghetto. What was that accent? Sorry, I'm back on my accents. I need to work on those. Oh, Detroit's such a ghetto. There's nothing good there. It's all burning buildings and tire fires and gang wars. No, it's not. There is, like, rich areas in there, and there is poor areas. Sometimes, though, the best things of Detroit come from the poor areas. Is it the Hindenburg Project? No, Heisenberg. Which one?
Okay, one sounds like a disaster. The other one sounds like a drug dealer.
I know. Oh, shoot. What is it? There's this project where this rich guy who came from Detroit but went out. He was an artist. But left Detroit. He came back. And when he went to the street he used to live on and saw how much of a ghetto it was and how it was abandoned, he's like, I'm going to turn this into an art project. And he started doing all this really cool stuff. If you could probably find it. It's really cool. A lot of the buildings have been burned down by, I don't know, they just got burned down by arsonists is the best thing I can say. But it was really cool stuff. It's just kind of the thing about America. You have all the artists in Detroit, all these beautifully talented people in the arts. You have Jack White, you have, I'm trying to think of another musician, but I can't remember his name. But you have all these people coming out of there. If you've ever heard the Detroit, the bands in Detroit, like even the school bands are so good at what they do. It's phenomenal. They're so skilled at the arts, and yet everyone kind of forgets about that.
Yeah, Detroit gets put down like a lot of the places in Canada get put down, except worse. Like, seriously, when's the last time you've heard of any major developments in any province except for Ontario and Quebec? We're the ones that hog the limelight. But yeah, Detroit's got this weird reputation where everyone's just like, oh, look at Detroit, the failure city, and Michigan's like the failure state. But it's not. It really isn't. People need to give the state of Michigan and the city of Detroit the credit that it deserves. Need to give it the chance.
Some of the best food places in America are in Detroit. They're all, like, Detroit has this really weird thing where they have this talent that doesn't leave them. It gets stuck there. But I believe it's because the Detroit have this belief where if they're going to hire someone to fix that, or if they're going to hire someone to do this, they better damn well be from Detroit.
Yeah.
It's not no bueno.
That would be a saving grace, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in any, like, we envy that in most places, the ability to, say that we need this work done by our own people.
Actually, at one point, Canada had a law about that, where we could only use Canadian services.
Yes, and that was rather interesting, but, then there was, like, North American free trade agreements and stuff like that.
And that wrecked the law I just mentioned.
Yeah, tore it down pretty quickly. But then it makes me think back to Jonathan Swift, his stuff, like writing in the 1720s about how Ireland needed to be more self-sufficient. That stuff's still relevant to this day with basically every industrialized country, and especially U.S. and Canada. We don't rely on our own manufacture anymore, and that basically Canada is in the same boat as the U.S. there. Not so much like if you checked out Germany. Check out Germany. They're a pretty sick country, I can tell you that. But
it's funny. A lot of countries, they don't look like they're in a depression, but sometimes some countries that don't look like it are totally in a depression.
Oh, it seems that most of the countries in Europe and countries in North America right now are just in a bad state.
And yet they are better. They look like they're at the same state as Detroit, but they look better.
Oh yeah.
But I think the thing is, the people in Detroit are proud of the things that they once had and that are still there. There is the Michigan Central train station, which is this beautiful, beautiful, massive train station they had, which when you're crossing over the Ambassador Bridge, which is the main route to America for most people in this area of Canada, like you can see it from that bridge, and it's so beautiful and so amazing. And then when you look at pictures of it, it was so lavish and beautiful, and it's been dead. And like that's the thing, these abandoned buildings are there because the people that live in Detroit love them and are connected to them. That building has been non-functional since I want to say 64, or which is I won't explain that. It's been there till this day, and it's now starting to be repaired. Like we're starting to get windows in it, and it's just a great thing to see the rejuvenation of Detroit.
Yeah, that is some pretty interesting stuff. Like I hadn't even heard of that at all.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful because all these skilled people are there helping Detroit get back to what it was. One of my favorite musicians, Jack White, basically he went and played. Liam's giving me this look like, really, Jack White?
Oh, I don't know.
That's all you talk about.
Oh, he mentions Jack White quite a bit, but I don't have any problem with it.
I love Jack White.
Whereas I'm an indie metal band elitist, so
he's a hipster for metal bands.
Yeah, kind of.
He's a hipster too. There's the Detroit Masonic Temple, which is one of the biggest Masonic temples in America. Brink of bankruptcy, Jack White, after playing there's like, hey, I'm going to pay you money so you can get out of this problem, and you don't have to do anything for it. And the people, and he does it, and he gives them money, and they don't have a problem anymore, and there's a beautiful theater, and they've decided to name the theater, they've renamed the Masonic Temple of Jack White.
See, okay, that sounds cool, but you just mentioned the Masonic Lodge. Now we're gonna get, like, Illuminati theorists in here. Did you know the Freemasons are exactly the Illuminati? Oh!
I need to point this out. I know Freemasons. I'm that cool. Yes. They're not Illuminati. They're different people. Freemasons are actually just really cool people and funny people to talk to.
There are 5 E's in what I've written down here as Dreary Eerie Season 1, Episode 2. It is the second episode. 5 minus 2 equals 3. What has 3 sides? The triangle on the Illuminati. The Eye of Providence. Therefore, Illuminati is confirmed. Masonic Lodge is Illuminati. Jack White is Illuminati.
Really? Okay, we're reaching a hour now, and you may have noticed I just switched headphones. If you're wearing headphones, it's because I moved around to the side of the computer I'm normally on.
Yes.
After going to Liam's side to check the time. We
Yeah.
are coming to the end of the hour. But we're at 5 minutes and 50 minutes.
Yeah. 5 and 50 minutes.
5 and 50 minutes. Yes. Quaint.
Yes. So we basically we've ran the gamut here from accents to kind of cultural assimilation to Canadian programs you should watch. Talked about Canadian, just the general expanse of Canada in general. But about the U.S. and we eventually went on to why Detroit is worthwhile and why we want to see Detroit get better. We want to see Detroit become what it was before.
I honestly suggest if you can go to Detroit. Just stay out of the really bad parts, because a lot of it's really nice and it's really nice to look at. And there's the General Motors. No, it's the Ford Renaissance Center, isn't it?
Yeah, unless you want to see the GM Tower, which is pretty nice. It's a big old building.
Nice, but there's the Ford Renaissance Center, which is it was after the gang wars of, I can't even remember. It was after the gang wars. It was erected, not gang war, race wars, race riots.
Race riots, yeah.
Race riots. It was erected, and it's a beautiful place, and there's all this beautiful paintings, and so if you get the chance to go to Detroit, I highly recommend it. It's a nice place to go. It's a thing to experience.
And if you're in Canada, or you ever find yourself in Canada, and you're not already a Windsorite, check out Windsor. Support Windsor's businesses. Lots of good places in Windsor that you could be checking out. Support Windsor, because Windsor's basically our Detroit. We want to see Windsor become a lot more prosperous than it is at the moment. Eat at this one place called the Manchester. Not like shilling for anyone, but really good English inspired pub.
If you want American food, and you like garlic, there's a place in Windsor called Bubby's. Yeah, that's a garlic place. You want garlic on a burger and a whole lot of it? That's where you go. I highly recommend it. My voice is cracking because I'm a 5-year-old.
Alternatively, go to the great bastion of Scottish cuisine known as McDonald's. You may have heard of it. It's very popular in your country if you're American. It's also very popular. You know what? Whoever I'm addressing, everywhere. It's popular in your country, no matter where you are.
Except Scotland.
Get the spicy bistro McHaggis.
Yeah, no.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Oh. Also, if you're don't try their poutine. Don't try the McDonald's poutine.
My goodness, McDonald's. Why?
McDonald's?
McDonald's!
McDonald's!
Giving you Scottish cuisine, even though it looks like a hamburger.
I'm gonna stop doing that.
We cannot, Captain! We don't have enough power. Why did that became straight up just offensive English, and then it went nowhere. We don't have enough power! That was a bit better.
When I broke, I was actually about to say, I need to stop doing this accent before I screw it up, and I screwed it up immediately as I was saying that. I think we're coming to the end of the hour.
Yeah, so, hope you guys have, maybe learned a bit. I know we didn't, because,
this is all things we know. We don't research anything.
Yeah, yes, much like the great immortal Stan Rogers, we do this through feeling, not through facts.
Yeah, basically we're just talking to a computer. We're like, hey, computer, you sexy.
Yes, if you can make this audio out at all, because,
I'm whispering, because I don't want you to hear what I just said. Yes. So...
That was annoying anyways. So
subscribe, like, and favorite. Do whatever you want.
Leave a comment. Tell us how we're doing. Do your opinions.
Definitely tell us, back to, because we did ask, definitely see if you, without Google, figure out where the capital of Canada is.
And definitely don't talk about the War of 1812. Nope, no War of 1812. Get over it. Get over it, everyone. Don't be salty.
Yep.
Okay, well, you'll be hearing us next time. I'd say we'd see you, but that would be a fallacy because we're not going to be seeing you. We're just going to
we're not even filming this. I don't even know what we're putting as our image this time.
Oh, well, you'll get to see. You'll get to see. Goodbye, everyone.
Away!
Away!